what's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of Ahsoka Breaking the Jedi. As you can see, I'm in a different environment. Well, everyone on watching on Plot Holes Productions, you guys can see I'm in a different environment. I don't have my regular mic, but yeah, I'm traveling right now, but I still found the time to do this review with Nate. So, how you been, Nate?
I've been great. Busy week, getting ready to travel this weekend. So,
Where are you going?
Pennsylvania.
Penn. Why? For what?
Family. Little kind of get together.
Oh, just like a family reunion kind of thing.
Not really. Just my cousin wanted my uncle to like come from Connecticut, and then I'm gonna go there with
Uh,
my brother, and just kind of a family guys thing or whatever.
oh, okay.
Nothing
So
crazy.
yeah, so I'm not in my home today. So
I see. You look like you're in a different galaxy.
I am. I am in a different galaxy, yeah. But when you watch this, if any of you guys go on Plot Holes Productions, youtube.com/, Plot Holes Bros, you can definitely see what Nate is talking about and what I look like. So
It's not much to look at, guys.
it's really weird. It looks very odd, but nonetheless, so we are reviewing part three, which was aired on Tuesday, and everything I said on part one, part two, on the last one, pretty much came to pass. Okay, not prediction, but more so like when you ask me, "Oh, what do you think is going to happen in like on the next few episodes?" And I told you what's going to happen in the next few episodes. It's just them trying to recover or trying to get to the Stargates hyperspace, and that's about it.
That's exactly what happened.
It's gonna be like that for the next two to about three episodes in, and that's it because they just climax out.
Isn't
This,
there only 8 episodes?
yeah. So in eight episodes. Well, this is what pisses me off about Disney Plus series. This is a 2.5 hour, 3 hour max film, and then they broke it off into eight different 30-minute episodes, right?
Yep.
I don't know if my math's correct. I don't know if that math's
I
that
mean,
adds.
I think the
I,
second
I,
episode was like 50 minutes or
yeah, I think
something, or the first. I don't
yeah,
know, one of those.
I think it adds up a little bit. 3.5 hour movie, and then they broke it up into eight different episodes. And then when you break it up to eight different episodes, you end up ending the show in such a weird position. Does that make any sense?
Kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Kind of like the way Obi-Wan did too as well. Yes. But they never gave that kind of treatment to Andor. That stupid
Yeah.
ass fucking thing. I still
Well,
hate that, man.
you haven't even watched it.
I still fucking hate it.
You hate it
Uh,
because you haven't watched it.
well, I hate it because I already know what I'm about to watch. I watched first episode and I already know
You,
what's gonna
it's
happen.
like
I'm
any,
like,
it's like any great show. You got to get past the first couple episodes.
this is what I did. I saw like Andor's on. Click. I already know.
Yeah. So you
Tell
didn't
me.
watch it. You didn't watch
Okay,
it.
okay, well, hold on. Let's divert a little bit. Is Andor anything political? Yes. Okay.
It's like an espionage kind of
Okay. So it's a political thing.
movie.
Okay. It's political.
Go.
Is it? It's about someone who's an outcast who's trying to find somewhere he belongs, and then he found that through the rebels. Is that true? Thank you. Okay, I just proved my point. All right. Anyways, Ahsoka.
But it's the ride. You just go for the ride. Anyway,
it,
yes, Ahsoka.
it went on for 12 episodes of like I just explained it like in 30 seconds, and it just anyways. Ahsoka is such a good series, but the way that they broke it down, it's just it's fucking messed up. But anyways, it ends in such a horrible manner that you're just going, that was it for episode three. I'm like, yeah, this is something that you should expect. Each and every one of you guys listening and watching, expect this to all Disney Plus Star Wars series. It's literally just a bunch of like no, 3.5 hour episodes broken into 30 minutes, and it's ending in a weird manner. Whatever ending that is that happened on episode three, it's such a weird position. It's like ending a sentence in a comma instead of a period. And you're like, and then um, it had no reveal. It literally everything I said on our last podcast review about Soka is the exact. It literally fell the exact same way I said it. It's just them trying to get to the Stargate and then trying to prevent that, and then you're not going to get to the climax until possibly episode 6, 7, and 8. I mean, 7 and 8 are connected, so episode 6, because you know how 7 would end in a cliffhanger because it's connected to 8. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Right. So it's gonna be like that. It's kind of like when Mandalorian, the last two episodes ended um, with Mando actually having the black saber, and then all of a sudden, it picks up right after that when the whole Luke Skywalker thing happened.
Yeah.
But it just didn't. This is why I hate it. But I just went along with the ride, and I will tell you this. Dave Filoni, like baloney, like you
You
said.
got it right this time.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Dave Filoni needs to be clear where this fucking show actually takes place.
I
He
mean, I know where
needs
it takes place.
no, no, you don't, Nate. No, you
I
don't.
do.
Nobody does. It's confusing. Now
Tim
the
doesn't know where it's
listen,
going.
everybody fucking aged in this show, but the little kid, Hera's son. So let me put it this way, okay? Let me put it this way. Last episode that reviewed this, we were trying to put where this show actually takes place, and we came to a conclusion that is season at the end of season 3 of
Yes.
Mandalorian,
So
right?
it's about 10 years after, or close. Let's say
We
eight
both
to ten
we
years
both
after Return of the Jedi.
Exactly. We both agreed on that. Okay. But we also both agreed that Hera took part in the Battle of Endor, right? Because
Yes.
of how Rebel ended. And then it showed that she has a son. At the end of Rebels, that was a kid. And at this episode, he's still a fucking kid. But everybody ages.
I think I think what hold on. I think yes, they do need to explain it more, but I think what they're doing here is like how I told you before, how they reshot that one scene from the end of Rebels with Sabine
Mm-hmm.
and Ahsoka. I
Mm-hmm.
think that is actually that same scene, although they were dressed somewhat differently. I think it was just like, oh, now this is live action, so
It's
whatever. Some changes are some changes. So
so
that
so
scene is exactly where and that scene in Rebels is exactly that scene happening in Ahsoka. I know it's hard to explain, but that's
no,
the only thing I can think for it to make sense.
it's not hard to explain it. Everything pretty much just falls like dominoes here. Okay, let me explain this to you. Okay, we put on our last episode we said that this takes place right after Mandalorian season 3. Okay,
Yes.
we both agreed on that. Even the director said that too as well. Okay, but revealing that Hera's kid is still a kid and not an adult, and everybody else aged,
Well,
aged.
it's well because I can't
Okay,
remember the end of Rebels. At the end of Rebels, technically, her kid would have just been born anyway, so that kid's about the right age.
no, the kid wasn't born because they showed he was a kid.
Then that must have been a flash forward, like I said, at the end when it showed an adult Ahsoka with
It's not a
Sabine.
here's the thing, it's not a flash forward because it was an explanation of what happened at the end of the Battle of Endor, because they said at the Battle of Endor, Hera took part in the Battle of Endor and also had a kid, and then they showed the kid. Okay, let me just explain how much of a domino effect this is, that this director and this creator and this fucking writer needs to explain properly where this is. If we were to say that this is taking place after season 3 of The Mandalorian, everybody has aged, which makes sense, okay? Because everybody has aged from Rebels all the way down to Mandalorian at the end of Return of the Jedi, Mandalorian, all that stuff in there. Okay. Now, if the kid is still a kid, that means that you have to move Mandalorian and Ahsoka literally after the end or a few years after the Battle of Endor. So this whole timeline is pretty much fucked up. Because now, if you move everything before, I mean, just right after the Battle of Endor, how the fuck does everything else make sense?
Okay, so I found it here. Her son was born 1 year after the Battle of Yavin, so that's technically 2 years before Empire Strikes Back and 1 year after Episode 4.
Okay, one
So
year.
he would be 11 years old. Wait, no, would he?
No, the
Sorry.
kid, no,
He-
no. By the look with that kid looks like it's 10 years old, which is the exact same age as Rebels. But no one aged in Rebels. Do you see how this has created a clusterfuck of timeline? Because now, if we put both of those not directly after episode 4, and what was sorry yeah, yeah, directly after Return of the Jedi, after Return of the Jedi, that means that Grogu at some point in time also exists during that time frame
So
after.
it says right here that this is he's 8 years old. Is what it's saying in Ahsoka. He's 8 years old.
So he's 8 years old. Okay, so I
Yes.
was off by two
So
years.
that means Ahsoka is taking place
Uh-huh.
what 6 years after Empire Strikes Back? I mean, Return of the Jedi.
So okay,
I
so
have to remember. I
no, so it takes place. So if he's 8 years old, that means it takes place 7 years after Return of the Jedi,
so that
right?
means Mandalorian takes place around that time too.
So that means Mandalorian takes place around that time too. Meaning, at some point in time, Grogu also exists. And what is the timeline between Episode 9 and Episode 8? I mean, Episode 7 and Episode 6.
30 years.
So that means Grogu existed during the sequels.
Yes. Well, we don't know. We haven't gotten that far. He could die at some point. We
So
don't know.
that means he died at some point.
We don't know though yet because we haven't
Well, we
gotten
have
that
to.
far.
Well, we have to know. It doesn't make sense that you have a big galactic war from Episode 9, from Episode 7 to 9, and Grogu isn't there, or the Mandalorian isn't there. That makes no sense. That means that at some point in time, the movie that we both said that will happen between the Mandalorian movie with Ahsoka and Boba Fett, that means all three of those people died at some point before Episode 7. That that
Quite
much
possibly. Quite
that much makes
possibly.
sense. Okay. So if we do that, then fine. Okay? Fine. That's okay. But it still doesn't explain who Marok is. Okay? So now let's go back to Merrick. Okay? Merrick, if you guys don't remember, is the third person. Because we can't say it's a Sith. Because they never said a Sith, right?
Yeah.
They never said who they were. It's the third person that looks like a Inquisitor.
Inquisitor. Yes.
Yeah. So a few things that we touched on the last podcast, which is now a growing theory on part 3. One is Sam Whitworth. I said that it could be Star Killer, but I'm like, no, it can't be Star Killer because you said that they canceled off the books and video games. Is that true?
The ones before Disney bought it. Yes.
You said they're retcon, so it
But
can.
they can always change things around like they did with
That
Thrawn.
makes no sense. Okay, whatever. Okay, so let's just
It's
say
the thing is it's not the same. It's okay. We're taking the idea that you had, but it's not going to be exactly the same.
okay,
It's going to be completely different.
so let's just say Merrick is Star Killer. Fine. Okay, that makes no sense because Star Killer takes place all the way down during Episode 4. No,
No,
no.
before that.
Before that, before episodes 4. That means that this man is fucking old as shit, so he can't be moving the way that he's moving right now. Impossible. Like we know that impossible. Okay. Number two, the other theory that you said was who?
I said it could have been the chick, but obviously
No, no,
it's
no. You said from the video
oh,
game.
what's his face?
Kate.
I I know the guy from the video game. I can't remember his name. The other video game. But that would make no sense because it'd be voiced by the freaking guy who plays him already.
It's a Kate or
Um,
something like that.
um, this is dumb. I hate this. It's like whenever I have to come up with it, I can't, and then I just know.
uh-huh.
The
Come on,
actor
Nate.
I have.
You know this.
I want to look it up so bad. I'm not going to.
Look it up. Who is it? You got it. Who is it?
Cal Kestis.
Cal
That's the
Kestis.
character. That's his character's name.
So one of the ones that we talked about that Nate said is Cal, right? So that is one of the working theories right now that it could be Cal, right? But now if it's Cal, that means the video game are not retcon too.
The only game that is canon as of right now is the Jedi
Mhm.
Survivor and Jedi whatever, because those are made under Disney. Those weren't made under George Lucas.
Okay, so where does Cal take place?
Uh, Originally, the first it takes place, I think, 3 years after Return of the Jedi. I mean, not Return of the Jedi. Wow, Revenge of the Sith is when the first game takes place, I believe.
So 3 years after 3 years after?
Yeah, Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, so it takes place 3 years after Revenge of the Sith. That means that this man is even older than
Well,
no
no,
he
he'd be
no
close to Anakin's age.
he could be no because he's not a kid. Oh, Anakin's age, yeah, Anakin's age. So he would be close to Anakin's age, but not quite because he's
Yeah,
younger.
he's a little bit younger, so he'd probably be 50 years old.
So he'll be like 50. So it cannot be any of those people. So, but it just manifested like during this after episode 2, right? Like all these theory manifested, right? Because they all want it, but it just doesn't make sense in terms of aging. Like it just doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense,
Well,
right?
like I said, I have a feeling this is my new theory, which probably makes more sense. They are retconning the character of Galen Merrick,
Mm-hmm.
which was Starkiller's original name, I believe. And they're just gonna make this new character named Merrick, which will be played by Sam Witwer. We will probably see him with his helmet off and be like, "Oh my God, it's Starkiller!" And he won't be Starkiller, but he'll just be an Inquisitor that
So
somehow got into this a lot of people.
So this is my new theory on it now because of all these things coming out, and especially with Sam Whitworth being credited for uh,
His voice,
his
at least.
voice. Yeah, being credited as for the voice. Um, I think that essentially he was a clone because Star Wars loves clones,
A
man.
clone of who?
A clone of Starkiller. It will be a clone of Starkiller. That's what I'm thinking.
I
Or
mean that I'm not gonna say no about that because that would be interesting. Because in the original game, he had other clones of himself.
he had other clones himself. Yes. So that is the only way that this will make sense because you have to follow John Favreau's blueprint. And John Favreau's blueprint is we're not touching the main canon. We're taking the ones that the main canon doesn't want and we're making a story out of it. The way he describes it is it's like the toys that your big brother doesn't want to play with, we're going to play with them. Right? That's what he said in the documentary. So that means that if they don't want the Star Killer storyline, they're just going to take something out of it, which is the clones, and say that this is Starkiller's clone, which would make sense because that means that they can keep Sam Witwer as the actor. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So that
that
means they don't
makes
have to
sense.
put any. So that means they don't have to make put any makeup on him or anything. He just looks like fucking Starkiller. That's what it's gonna look like. So That's my part. That's my 20-minute part. Well, what's your take on the on this episode?
um, well, like I said before, and you're gonna hate me for this, but I'm liking the show, but I'm still not loving it. And once again, it comes down to the score.
And okay, and then here's the thing.
like it, like the whole part when they were being chased by the starfighters and stuff like that. When they're going to the Stargate, you call it, or
Yeah,
the super hyperdrive
yeah,
ring. Like the music that was there, I just felt like it wasn't very exciting. It was kind of like blah.
yeah,
I'm like, this would be perfect for the like the normal Star Wars like theme to like kick in. It would sound so good and make this scene so much more like energized and more
yeah.
Star Wars. Plus the sounds that the freaking ships were making, the like blaster noises. I was just like, this sounds so weak.
You, the only advice that I can give you on that, Nate, is you gotta get your head out of like the main Star Wars stuff. That this is not
But
that
this is the
canon.
thing. This is supposed to be the main Star Wars. This is all Star Wars is main Star Wars.
I know, but think of it this way: if every Star Wars is Star Wars and all sounds are the same thing, it's just fucking boring.
I'm not saying that something new or something different isn't good.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that the scene itself would have benefited more for better sound engineering there. That and the whole scene with Ahsoka out in the spacesuit, I felt like it was a big waste of time.
I.
Because I was just like, okay, why are you going out there? Oh, you're going out there to distract them. I get that's what they're trying to go for, but it's like, okay,
Mhm.
you're going to deflect what you can with your lightsabers
Well, that
because you are the distraction. I was just like, eh.
well, I think
A smart person would be like, no, don't shoot her, shoot the freaking ship.
I think that you could have uh, better worded as it's a dumb sequence. That
It is. It
I
really is.
in my opinion, that is kind of a dumb sequence because there's fucking three of you.
Exactly.
There's three of you. Why do you need all three of you to go after one person? So, I mean, there's a lot of criticism. See, here's the thing. This is why I said on the last podcast, on the last review that we did, was this is why they mashed up episode one and episode two together, because the subsequent episodes after that is just going to be dull. It's just going to be dull. It's going to be dull from episode three, which is we just saw. Episode four is going to be dull, and then they leave you a cliffhanger in episode five. Episode six will be the revelation, and episode seven and eight are together. That's basically the format of Disney Plus. It's just you can literally skip if you were to encounter another one of these Star Wars, you can literally skip episode three, four, five if it's an 8-part episode. Three, four, five, skip all those and begin at six, and then they'll just do a recap, and then you're like fucking fine. Like you don't have like
I
you
I
don't have
kind
to watch it.
I kind of agree with you on that. I'm not gonna lie, but I guess this is where we could give a little prediction. My prediction for like at least the next episode, it's gonna get to where because episode four, in my opinion, episode four is the halfway point, which it is. You know,
Mhm.
4 out of 8. I think by the end of it is when we're probably gonna finally see Thrawn, or actually maybe get a glimpse of him. Maybe like we hear him, or you know, we're either
Well,
gonna hear him or we're gonna see him by the end of the episode, and
I
then that's kind of like starting.
I don't think we will because they're in the forest at the end and they're getting chased after Balin. So the whole episode four is just a chase after Balin, and then at the end of that episode four, it's just like, oh, Balin, blah blah, and then explanation of who Balin is, sort of an explanation, not a full explanation. It's gonna be a sort of explanation, and then it ends there, and then that's it.
I feel like this show needs more than 8 episodes. I really do. I think it should be like at least 10.
Well, like we said on the last podcast, is that they give you what you want, but they give it a shitty fucking show, and then the ones that you don't want, they give it like the best show. Like
Yeah,
like Andor does not need to have that much fucking episode and that detail. I just explained it in 30 seconds. Ahsoka, on the other hand, a Jedi that's been outcast for fucking years, need a 12 episode. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to explain where this woman has been the whole time, right? From episode 4 to, from episode 4 to episode 6, where have you been? Right? That's episode 1 of Ahsoka all the way down to episode 6. Explanation of where have you been. Tell us why you left. Why you left the training for Sabine Wren? Because we never got an explanation. I told you we're not gonna get that explanation, Nate.
Don't you
You're,
know how Star Wars works? You got to wait for another movie or another show to get that.
you're not gonna
Or a
get that
book,
explanation.
or a book, or a video game. You got to wait. You
Yeah,
got to wait.
and then he's like, oh, and then during the episode and during this episode, it's like, oh, I was told by by the Chinese robot, Huyan,
Yeah.
Huyan,
Who yawn?
Huyan,
Who
Huyan,
yawn?
Huyan told me I'm worse than than any other Jedi. What?
Emotional
Like,
damage.
when did he tell you this? Did he just like miraculously tell you somewhere? Like, what the fuck is going on? So I think that's why when it seems like they're playing with people's assumptions. Like, the whole story so far is connected by your assumptions. If you have an assumption and connect it to this, that's what makes this this show keep moving forward and keeps people talking. Does that make sense? So I don't I do not want to say I hate the show. I just think the format that Disney has given this show, their traditional format, sucks.
I think if for something like this, my opinion, they should have just made it. I know they're doing it as a TV show, but they should have just connected it as a maybe a made for Disney Plus movie.
It could look if they were to say, "Oh, if we made it to a movie, it's too long." I don't care. Like, this is a show that everybody that's a Star Wars fan actually really love. You are presenting a outcast Jedi that's we've never had a show about an outcast Jedi. We only had video games. That's it of outcast Jedi, novels of outcast Jedi. This is in my opinion, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first time that they're actually showing in live action about an outcast Jedi. Is that correct? It's only been novels and video games. There was never a TV show or movies. Never.
No.
See, this is about an outcast Jedi that everybody actually loved. It was a character that wasn't supposed to be where it is now, but is. Give it a fucking 12-part series. Give it a full explanation. How the fuck did you meet up with Luke? How the hell did you survive all three main canon of Star Wars, 4, 5, and 6? Where were you in 4, 5, and 6? Why the hell did you leave Sabine Wren? I can keep fucking going. But then they just kind of passed it by. They're like, yeah, it's okay. Should Ron. It's like, what the fuck are you? What's going on? So it sucks, man. It sucks. It sucks that they're giving Ahsoka this kind of treatment. I don't know, man. I can't find anything good about this episode. I really can't. I'm not hating on the episode. I'm
The
hating on
space
the.
whales, though. The space whales.
Okay, fine. Let's talk about this.
We
Let's
saw
talk.
them.
Okay, let's talk about the space whales. Okay, what do you think about the space whales though?
Um, they looked a lot different than I thought they were gonna look in live action, but
They're fucking
I
massive.
yeah, I was like,
Like,
I'm okay with this. I like this.
they're
Although people who have never seen these things before are gonna be like, what the fuck?
they're far more massive than Rebels. Because like if you saw the end of Rebels, the tentacles on the space whale when it's like gripping on Thrawn, you look at it, you're like, okay, one tentacle kind of just wrapped around Thrawn, right? At the ending of Rebels. But when you see this tentacles, like there is no way that the tentacles were that small on Rebels, because
It
like
must have been a baby.
it must have been a baby, because these are massive. Like, we talked about it on the last podcast, how they cling on to Thrawn's Star Destroyer. And if you watch Rebels, you're like, okay, they clinged onto it. You just kind of process it as it makes sense. Like, oh yeah, they're pretty big. But when they showed it, you're like, holy shit! Like, they are massive. Like, they're just huge, right? So I think the space whale, and they have a name for the space whale now, right?
Yeah, I can't remember what they said they were.
Yeah, they
Like
name.
I'm basically waiting for Ahsoka to end so I can watch it all back one time as like a full thing to
Yeah,
give it like my full like was this really good? I don't know.
yeah.
Right now I'm like if I had to rate it from episode 1 to 3 right now, I give it like a 7 right now.
It's the way it's structured. It's kind of like how Netflix has a certain structure. If your TV show or movie doesn't have a riveting beginning and a cliffhanger in each episode, they don't want it. That's basically how Netflix does their shows, right?
Yeah.
If there's no cliffhanger in each episode, we don't want it, and there is no big revelation, we don't want it. Disney Plus's structure sucks. It fucking sucks. And the worst part is we're all here like fucking suckers. And we're like, even though we're pretty much pointing out what's wrong with the show, we're gonna fucking watch it again next week, man.
Of course, we got to. It's Star Wars.
It's not just because we're fucking reviewing it, it's just that you just got to. Like, it's like a horrible toxic relationship. You're like, this is so bad for me, but I think he can change.
It's
Like,
like
you're,
I'll give it one more week. He'll
yeah.
change next week. Okay, I'll give it one more week. It'll change next week. I just know it will. Okay, I'll give it 2 more weeks. Okay, there's only one episode left. This is it. This is it.
Oh my
Okay, I gotta
god.
go rewatch it from the beginning just to make sure this is what I
It's,
watched.
it's like a bad toxic relationship. You're like, he can change. I swear to you, he'll change. It's like, even though we're talking about, even though I already said on the last review that this is what 3 and 4 is gonna look like, I'm still gonna fucking watch 4, and then I'm still gonna say the same thing after review it. It's fucking the same, it's the same thing.
Well, this is what it is. Basically, Disney is writing, at least how I feel with this and Obi-Wan. They're writing a movie, but they're splitting that movie into episodes, which does not work.
Well, that's what I just said.
I know, but I'm layman's terms. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's literally a 3.5 hour movie, and they're breaking it up to 30 minutes each, and
Which
that's
does
it.
not work. They should just. I know they got different directors for each episode or whatever, but
Mm.
they should have just said, you know what, this is all gonna go on Disney Plus as one whole thing. We're gonna cut it together to where it makes more
Yeah.
of a fluid movie,
Yeah.
and you get. But that doesn't help Disney Plus. Why doesn't that help? Because they'll watch it and then they'll cancel their subscription. We want to keep them for X amount of weeks.
And this is like, and I'm gonna say this. I don't really care. I'm gonna say this. It's all uncensored, anyways. I'm gonna say
Just
this though.
say it.
If 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 there's any, I mean, if there's any women, I can see the analytics. There's some women that listens to us. Any of the women that listen to us,
Why?
and if you're struggling to explain to your partner, who's male, to your partner, why, I mean, husbands or boyfriends, why is it disappointing when he finishes before you? Just explain to them what Star Wars is. Disney Plus Star Wars is, right? It's like you have the anticipation of the greatest show of all time, and then at the end of each episode, you're just like, eh. That that is the way you ladies can explain to them why they're not performing well. They're like, I don't understand. I thought I was good. Well, you know how Ahsoka Tano is like on episode 3, where you're like, oh man, it's gonna be really good, and then how it ended, and you're like, eh, that's exactly what it is, and that's the best way that you can. That's the best way that all ladies can describe what it's like when it's not being satisfied by your partner, by your boyfriend or your husband or whatever, man. That's it's just it sucks, man.
The only
I
thing I can say is the guy who's making the Obi-Wan movie, who used to work at ILM or whatever, and he's already paid to like change some things and make it as one full movie. He's got to somehow get access to Ahsoka and do the same thing, please.
Oh man, man, I'm sorry. I can't find anything good about this episode because I broke it down on last episode on what episode 3 and 4 is gonna be. Like 4 is not gonna be any different than 3. It's gonna be the exact same thing as 3, just a level up. We're not gonna get anything until the end of 5, and then 6, 7, and 8.
Well, let's be clear. There are good things about this episode, but the episode as a whole was meh.
I, the only what's the only thing good? Like they retcon like the force. They already said, "Oh, anyone can wield the force." And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't they say that no one can wield the force? They have to be a special person that wields the
Well,
force.
technically they did that in oh, what's the show? Wow. Uh,
They
Clone
did.
Wars. They technically kind of explained that a little bit in the Clone Wars with the
Hmm.
father, the brother, and the sister or whatever.
Hmm.
Them of the Force.
Yeah,
Everybody, even Obi-Wan says it in Episode 4. The Force is everywhere, basically.
yeah. Hey, like here's what I will tell you though. You can hate like depending on who you are, you can hate on Lucas's vision on the prequel. You can hate on that. You can hate on Jar Jar and all that stuff. There's
Midichlorians.
as yeah as someone as you know as someone me and Nate that lived through all those Star Wars and watched all those Star Wars. I don't know if I can speak for Nate, but Disney Plus Star Wars is the most horrible weekly show that ever happened to Star Wars. They could have just made it into one big movie and would have been fine. But it's
The only exception I would say would be like the first two seasons of The Mandalorian.
I mean, here's the thing. If
I
you
think
st-
that worked.
well, here's the thing. If you start watching, see, here's the thing. The thing is that the reason why Mandalorian work is because whether you're a Star Wars fan or not, you had no expectation for that show whatsoever, right? So
100%.
so they just went out there and just delivered the best product that they can
And you
because
know why? You know why?
mm,
Because it was a character that was new and had no history in the Star Wars universe.
true. But again, like I said before, nobody expected anything from the Mandalorian. That's why it was so good. We have expectations now with these characters, and it's sucking. Now, if you were to watch, let's just say you haven't seen Mandalorian before, and you watch all these Disney Plus, the Andor, the Obi-Wan, Ahsoka. If you watch all these Disney Plus Star Wars before the Mandalorian is not as great as it looks right now because the structure is the exact same thing. The exact same thing, the exact same way. The only reason why Mandalorian is so much more celebrated is because that same structure that Disney Plus has implemented has been implemented in the Mandalorian, and we already expect that from the Mandalorian. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Where that structure, we don't expect that same structure into Boba Fett, into Obi-Wan, into Ahsoka or Andor. We don't expect that at all. We expected the traditional movie, right? And by implementing that kind of structure, it fucking sucks. It really sucks, man. So, I mean, the way I look at it is this: you shouldn't expect so much on episode 3, 4, 5. That's it. And I think moving forward, episode 4 and 5, we should try to see the good parts on the show because we already know it's going to be fucking horrible.
let's just hope that you're wrong. I'm gonna say right now you won't be wrong, but let's just hope you're wrong.
So far, I'm 1-0, man. I mean, yeah, I'm 1-0 right now, man. I'm 1-0. Episode 3, same thing.
As far as I think the next episode is gonna be them on the planet. They'll probably have a lightsaber battle against a few of these people. Someone might die, and then they somehow tag along on this giant freaking hyperspace ring, and that's where it ends. And
Well,
then we have to wait for episode 5 to find out what happens next.
well, the space whales is already a foreshadowing in terms of like how Ahsoka and everyone else gonna get to that place where Thrawn is. You know for a fact that I'm gonna call it now. This is what's gonna happen. All those guys are
They're
gonna
gonna hitch a ride,
they're all gonna get to Thrawn using the space gate, and the space gate gets destroyed, so they don't get so nobody follows them.
and then they
So
need the whales.
they
Yeah,
need the whales, and you're probably wondering, oh, how can they ride the whales? There's no directory. Well, they explained it on this episode that the rebels were trying to study these space whales because of their migration pattern. That is the key word there, migration pattern, meaning that from this planet to the next is the exact same pattern, the exact same way as those as where that Stargate's gonna go. So they don't really need a map. They just need a fucking whale to just get them there. Do you see what I'm saying?
yes. The answer to hyperspace travel between galaxies is a whale. I got it.
It's gonna be a whale because they
But
can.
I want to say this. This has something to do with Ahsoka, but I'm going to talk about it more when we do our final episode of Ahsoka. I believe that what we're seeing now in the Ahsoka series with all this travel and stuff is actually going to be a part of the future of Star Wars, meaning mainly stuff that's going to have to do with I'm going to call it episode 10, but the Rey movie.
But we already know it cannot be part of it, Nate, because this takes place 8 years
You're you're
after.
you're not. That's why I said I need to explain it afterwards. It's not the fact that these people are going to be in it. No, it's the galaxy jumping thing. That's going to be a part of, I believe, basically like I was saying earlier, Disney Plus likes to recycle old ideas from Lucasfilm. They're going to do it again, but they're going to do it with Ray's whole thing. That we'll talk about it more when we get there.
The only thing that can save them right now, I know you probably don't agree with it. The only thing that can save them right now is the world between worlds. That's the only thing that can save them right now. That's the only, explain it a little
The
bit
only
further.
the only thing that can save this show is just turn it into a damn movie
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah,
with the Star Wars music. Thank you.
that I don't agree with. But that's anything else you want to put in this
This
cluster fuck of an episode?
um I hope you're wrong about the next episode. That's all. That's all. I like I said, as of right now, like all three of these episodes together, I'm giving the show about a 7, which is weird because I'm usually the person that's like everything Star Wars is awesome. This one I'm just like, eh.
I'm gonna be 2-0. I'm gonna be 2-0 by
Oh,
next week,
I'm championing you right now. I have faith in you. I think you're right.
and you're still not gonna see who Merrick is.
You know what? That's probably gonna be the thing. The thing is, we'll probably never see who he really is, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, we were waiting for it." It's like, yeah, so we
You're you're you're,
weren't
you're
gonna give you that.
you're probably gonna see it by like episode seven,
Yeah.
episode 6. The only thing that I can tell you by episode 4, and this is my prediction on it, is that you're gonna get a hint of who Merrick is, like a hair strand or a stare or an eye or something. Because you know for a fact he's wearing a helmet because that's gonna be broken into like a small little piece at one point, and you're
Yeah.
gonna be like, that looks like the eye of
Ooh.
blah blah
What if
blah.
he? What if he was actually? This would be funny. But what if he was actually? I think it's pronounced Zabrak or whatever. One of Darth Maul's people. because he already plays Darth Maul's voice, so it would have been funny if he is an alien of Darth Maul's race.
I guess
It
so.
just looks like him. That would be kind of freaking funny. People would be like, "What?"
I mean, I mean, like, I'd probably buy that. Maybe I'd buy that instead of like Cal and Star Killer.
Yeah,
I mean, like, yeah, it'd be nice to see Sam Woodward in there, but
yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to swallow. Like, this episode was so hard to swallow that I usually watch the episode again just so that I can see what else in there. I'm just like, fuck it, man. I'm not watching it again. Like,
Like I
fuck
said, I need
it.
to wait for the show to be over to watch it over one more time, and then be like, "Was it worth it?" I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll wait and see.
Well, that's our take on Ahsoka. There, we're gonna come back again next week, as always. It's gonna be a weekly episode, and we're gonna see if you guys are gonna be disappointed or elated. I don't know, or if I'm gonna be 2-0 or 1-1. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But until then, thank you guys for being here. Make sure that you follow Plot Holes Pro. You guys can see the audio. I mean, so the video and audio version of this show. The audio version of this show is on Uncensored Nerds on Spotify. If you guys have time, make sure that you check out my Patreon, patreon.com/uncensored nerds. There are a bunch of pledges in there that is going to be beneficial for you guys. And make sure that you subscribe to Plot Holes Pros and myself. Before we end the show too as well, I want to thank our sponsor too as well.
Ooh.
I'm gonna cut this because I forgot who the sponsor was. Beyond the Cape. Yeah, so I want to thank our sponsor too as well, Beyond the Cape podcast. Make sure you guys check out Beyond the Cape podcast. They are not as tense as me and Nate. These guys are their podcast is pretty chill podcast, really laid back podcast. Make sure you follow them on Instagram too as well, Beyond the Cape podcast, and also make sure that you check out GatorGuardComics.com for all comic book collectors. This is a great place for you guys to encapsulate your comic books without paying a CGC price. It's pretty amazing. So make sure that you go to getterguardcomics.com. Let them know that I sent you there, Tmac01 or Tim from Uncensored Nerds send you there too as well. Nate, any final words?
Um, Normally I have a quote, but I don't have one today, so I'm just gonna say, let's hope that you are wrong next week.
Well, we'll see how that goes. And my last words are always been the exact same thing. From the immortal words of Jay Z, you guys could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. I appreciate that. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you next week.